The king of the north!
I am the dragon's daughter.
I want right. Does the wolf judge the lion?
Hello, sweet summer children. I'm here today with some awesome Game of Thrones content creators, and we will be discussing the wars to come, much and more. They don't need an introduction, as I'm sure you probably already know them already, but I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
So I'm Quinn from the Ideas of Ice and Fire YouTube channel. I do theory videos and I review the episodes of Game of Thrones, as well as like discussions about other fantasy book series and sci-fi book series like The Wheel of Time or The King Killer Chronicles or Dune by Frank Herbert.
Hey everyone, this is Lucifer Means Lightbringer. Call me LML for short because calling someone Lucifer is a little weird. Makes more sense on a forum as a forum name, but you can find all my stuff at lucifermeanslightbringer.com. I've got the Mythical Astronomy of Ice and Fire podcast, and I just made my first video, which is like the easy-to-swallow capsule version of Mythical Astronomy. So everyone can check that out right on my website. And I'm happy to be here, very happy.
No doubt. You know who it is, the Don Tony Teflon, and I'm chilling here with my peoples. Happy to be here, happy to get into this. Thank you, Gray, for having me. Chilling with the best. You're now rocking with the best, and y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with us, and we really do appreciate that.
Awesome. So make sure you guys check them out. You won't be disappointed. All of their info will be linked below. So season 7 has started. We are about to go into episode 2, Stormborn. We have a 7-episode season. And Digital Spy did the math, and it's equivalent to a 42% budget increase per episode. So we should be getting a lot of battles, and I think the big sea battle happens in episode 2, Stormborn, but I'd like to know what you guys think we get in episode 2, sea battle or not.
I don't think there's any chance that we don't get to see battle in this episode, especially the way the trailers have been showing and everything else. I just think that it has to be the way the season is formatted and stuff. The sea battle has to be in this episode.
I'd say Stormborn is a pretty good name for an episode of the sea battle at Dragonstone, probably.
I also think Stormborn kind of ties into Euron being the storm.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be Euron attempting to perhaps capture whatever prize that he's going to give to Cersei, right?
Yeah, the gift for Cersei. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the gift is going to be?
The sand snakes.
Sand snakes?
That's the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it has to. It has to be Oberyn's thought, and there's no doubt.
It's not going to be Tyrion. It's not going to be Tyrion.
No.
Yeah, and I definitely think it has to happen in the second episode, because if this were a normal season, after this episode, we'd be halfway through with 5 episodes left. So they need to pick up the pace from that last episode, especially.
Yeah, definitely. I did some research. So the director for this episode is Mark Malloy. So I'm going to tell you some of the other episodes that he directed. So he directed season 5, episode 3, High Sparrow, and episode 4, Sons of the Harpy. And he also did season 6, episode 7, Blood of My Blood, and episode 8, No One. So knowing the episodes that he's done, do you think he's able to pull off the sea battle?
No One is the worst episode in Game of Thrones history. That's all I have to say.
Is it really?
No One is the episode where Arya and the waif have that chase.
Oh, that's right.
In the darkness.
Yeah, that was a little over the top.
Yeah. So he hasn't really done anything battle-y.
This is a budget. I think a lot of it comes down to the budget, and when you can't fuck up this budget, you know what I mean? I think that there's no way he can't do a good job. And how long is it really going to last? That's what I'm really thinking about. How much of this are we going to get in this episode? Are we going to get a 10-minute battle? You're going to get a 15-minute battle? I don't think we're going to get 20. So I'm hoping for maybe 15 minutes of battle.
Maybe this is a good thing, because they gave him the Arya episode and he tried to turn it into a 007 kind of action sequence. So maybe that's just what he wants to do, is do action sequences. So now they're giving him a sea battle and he can have people like leaping from ship to ship and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Maybe he'll be in his element.
Oh yeah, that'll be awesome.
Maybe he is into action, but the budget can only do so much, because Gods of Egypt was like a $200 million piece of shit.
No.
Yeah.
So,
I
Greg, do you know, I don't recall what all happened in each of those episodes. You just listed them off real quick. Do you recall some of the major events of those?
I think Blood of My Blood was when Daenerys got on the back of Drogon at the end of the episode.
Mhm.
I can't think of what else happened in that episode. I think High Sparrow, I think Marjorie got married to Tommen. Sons of the Harpy, I think that might have been
on Sir
Barristan.
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
3 out of the 4 episodes we mentioned in our fight episodes. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. That's what I'm seeing.
So you think we're probably going to get it then?
I feel like all those fight scenes were trash, though.
Yeah, listen, the Barristan samurai skill sword was kind of lame. You know, he should have. They shouldn't have let him go out there. Only thing I didn't remember when I looked at that episode is the leap of faith that Grey Worm made at the end. When you do a leap of faith like that, usually you save the person.
Yeah.
And he didn't save anybody. He just landed on him and he was dead.
Yeah,
So
you failed.
So let's ask the question. Let's assume this battle is going to happen. What's the logistics of the battle? Is this Euron attacking Dragonstone or intercepting Dany's fleet, sacking Dany's fleet so she can't leave Dragonstone? Like, what's the play here?
When we hear when we look in the trailer and we see that Yarsha, and that's what I like to call her, Yarsha. Right? So that's my word. So when we see
Yarsha.
you got to go with that, right? So when you see
name was Yarsha.
when you see this chick and she's talking to Dany and she's like, "Listen, we got a fleet, we got dragons, we should attack now." I think Dany's gonna shut her down and say, "We're not gonna attack right now, Tyrion or something." And I think that thought, and that's what I call Oberyn's chick, the thought. I think that she's gonna gas her. Hey, we don't need her. We should go off on our own and do this. We got the ships. We can do this ourselves. And I think she's going to listen to her. That's why we see her making out with her. And I think that's how they're going to get bagged up, because they're going to go out there on their own. And I think that's how they get bagged.
A defection, like a freelancing.
I call that treason.
It's interesting. It's interesting and it sounds plausible. Like it sounds like something
Yeah, it
Illyria
does.
would do.
Yeah, that cunt.
And don't they kind of need to look for ways to complicate Dany's conquest, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like she shouldn't just have such an easy ride.
And that would be a natural problem. She's got this really weird coalition that's sort of just ad hoc thrown together. So it would make sense that there's going to be problems with that.
Yeah.
So I was thinking Euron kind of sneaks in there like some SEAL Team 6 stuff and just tries to get the Sand Snakes in Illyria, and then it turns into something bigger. Because I can't think about who in their right mind would attack a fleet. Well, let's assume Euron's in his right mind. But who would attack a fleet with all of those dragons and all of those soldiers? It just doesn't seem logical.
Yeah, that's why I think they have to be on their own, because there's no way they would lose if they had the dragons. So I think there has to be a reason for her.
That's why I like Tony's idea. Tony's exactly right. There has to be a way for this battle to happen away from the dragons, unless Euron's just a fool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's been tons of talk about Euron being worse than Ramsey. How do they portray that on screen given such limited time?
Not very well. Just say, I don't really like Euron in the show at all. I think that he's nothing like his book counterpart. The book counterpart is much more evil, is much more imposing, intimidating figure. And I just feel like this show, Euron is just goofy looking and silly.
Yeah, I think that the guy got casted because he looked like Theon. I really, and in my head, I have a recasting Game of Thrones thing I do, and I recasted him as Mads Mikkelsen. And I think that when I think of Mads Mikkelsen, I think that's Euron Greyjoy. And it's hard for me to really see past that. But I will say that, they gave Beric done. This is a show with a big budget. They gave an eye patch to Beric. Could they just get an eye patch?
Yeah,
exactly. Make him look like a pirate.
So
yeah, we're not asking for a lot.
That's a good call. I will sort of dissent a little bit. Now, granted, he's nothing like Book Euron, and I like Book Euron as a villain. But I think if you accept the fact that it's totally different, then you can, I don't know. I think there's things to like about his acting style. And I liked I like how he was sort of teasing Jaime. And to me, he was trying to portray someone that was a little unstable, a little bit kind of crazy. And it's not the same crazy as Euron in the books, but he was definitely like a little bit nutty. So the question is, how can the show, they can't make him into Book Euron, but they can make him into somebody that's a little more evil and not just nutty. And how would they do that? One way they could do that is by having him cut somebody's tongue out. That's
Gruesomely murdered the sand snakes.
I think he's gonna put one of the sand snakes. I think we're gonna get like that stuff that he did in the Reach in the Oaken Shield. I think he's gonna do that when he goes back to King's Landing. I think one of those sand snakes will be on the front of his ship.
Oh wow,
Right.
like Forsaken.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Interesting.
Something like
No doubt
any
about
amount
it.
of that kind of behavior will certainly ratchet up a little bit. But my big prediction would be that they are going to, in fact, have him become a little more magical. And I don't know that
Interesting.
they'll give him. I mean, they're not going to. Again, Book Euron has magic armor, and he's got the horn, and he's got all this stuff. But they could still do the horn. I think, even though they haven't shown it in some ways, because it really comes down to what they plan to do with Euron and the dragons. If they're planning on Euron having any sort of aspirations to the dragons, he's clearly not a Targaryen. So you need something like a magic horn, or I don't know, maybe it's dragonglass. Dragonglass does everything, you know? But,
Everything.
I'm just kidding. But the point is, you know, if they're planning on doing anything with dragons and Euron, we could see the dragon horn.
I think that we have a 100% confirmation in my eyes that Euron is the Valancourt from the last episode. I think that it was spelled out pretty clearly.
How's that?
That he is. Well, so when we look at first we take a look at the Forsaken chapter. We see him with a woman that's there, a woman that's described as tall and pale and beautiful while he's on the Iron Throne. So to me, that's Cersei Lannister. And pale is her complexion. Pale is what's called Maggie Frog said's gonna wrap his hands around your pale neck. But in the episode, we see him specifically say, I have two hands, and Jaime doesn't. And we know that she's going to be strangled by the hands. And I know a lot of people want to think it's Jaime, and I've told them Jaime only has one hand. And he specifically points out in that episode, I have two hands.
But how is he her younger brother?
He's not her younger brother. He is a younger brother.
Yeah, he's a younger brother.
It says the. It says the Valancourt, not your Valancourt. And also that the Valancourt is the only part of the prophecy that's given in Valyrian. So I would think that it has some kind of ties to Valyria, because I also think Euron is the Valancourt. And he has ties to Valyria. He has Valyrian armor. He has Dragonbinder. He's walked on the ruins of Valyria. But also, in the prophecy, it says when your tears have drowned you. Now, everything that's happened to her has drowned her, brought her down. But not only has it drowned her, but the Greyjoys worship the drowned god. I think there's some kind of, you know, little nuances
I
that
think
go
you're-
along with Euron.
Interesting.
I think you're 100% right.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
It will. It will.
So the other thing that I was thinking, besides the Dragonhorn as a possibility, was how about some Shade of the Evening? Because they've already established the Warlocks. So, I mean, it'd be pretty easy for Euron to, like, show up next episode and he's got some Warlocks and they're drinking some shit and he starts talking all crazy. Like, that would definitely establish him as a different level of insane than just, like, I'm an egotistical pirate.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
if they do his ship right and they show what's on the inside of his ship, everyone would change their mind about the guy.
Right. Whether it's torture or magic or warlocks or torturing warlocks or, you know, any of that.
Crazy shit.
Half warlocks hanging from the rafters and stuff,
Oh,
whatever
wow.
it is.
Yeah, we know the show always simplifies the books, but there's a lot to draw from in the books is kind of my overarching point. Like, they've got a lot to choose from. They could pick any of that combination of cutting people's tongues out and lashing up women to the front of ships and taking drugs and, you know, whatever else. So
And I think that all the battles
Yeah.
that we've seen on the trailer, the sea battle looks the best. I think that looks better than everything so far that we've seen, that I've seen on the trailers. I think that looks better than the Field of Fire and the Lannister Casterly Rock battle. I like the way the sea battle looks at overall over all of them.
do you think there could be multiple sea battles in this season? Well, because
I
if the
would
dragons
love
are going to be involved in a sea battle, then you know what I mean? Maybe that's the later one or something.
I think this is the end of her fleet. I think they have to knock the fleet. I think they have to knock the fleet out, and they need Cersei to have a win. You know, she's got to get a win. I think she's going to get this win, and she's going to get another one with Highgarden.
So how does Dany get her soldiers off of Dragonstone?
I don't think he's going to take every ship. So she still had her ships that she came with. She's just going to lose the Greyjoy fleet, the Greyjoy portion, the Dornish portion. So she'll have her other ships and her other fleet that she already came with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have two questions
yeah.
or two points. First off, the shade of the evening. How cool would it be? We know how Cersei is obsessed with wine. That Euron gets her addicted to shade of the evening.
Hell yeah, it's the only place for wino Cersei to go after this.
I think that's what Lil Wayne be drinking all the time.
I don't
Shade
know
of the
how they
evening.
would they portray her visions, or would it just be like, oh, she's
Oh,
acting a
dude,
little
that's
funny?
what purple drank is.
Exactly. No doubt
Purple
about it.
drank.
I don't know how they would portray it, because we saw what we got for the House of the Undying, so I don't know how they would portray visions.
Yeah, it's not the shade that puts you in there. It's the glass candle he hands that gets inside the visions. You know, so the shade helps hallucinate you, but him going inside of the dreams, he's using the glass candle to go.
Yeah,
inside.
I would probably agree with that.
So the showrunners, their self, I think it was the showrunners, their self, or the actor that's playing Euron that said he would be worse than Ramsey. So Ramsey raping,
Okay, well, yeah.
raping people and feeding people to dogs, like the ante has to be upped. And I don't know how much further you can up the ante unless he's gonna dismember Yara. I don't.
God.
Oh, Ramsey was so terrible. Oh my God. I did not like Ramsey Bolton this show, especially all I got to think about is the rescue of Theon scene. And all I got to think about is that one scene, this guy shirtless, a couple of cuts on his chest with two knives in his hand, no shields, no nothing. And Yarsha running from a dog because he opens a cage and they run from dogs. Just terrible. Anyone could be scarier than that guy.
And specifically, I think if he's going to be worse than Ramsey, I don't think you can be worse than Ramsey by just doing more torture than Ramsey. Like Ramsey's whole thing was physical torture. So worse than Ramsey, it's got to be mentally horrifying too. And that would mean magic. And because when someone believes they're a god or they believe in gods, it just completely changes the whole axis of right and wrong and what they're capable of doing in their head, you know. So that's a different level of terror.
Exactly. It's a suicide bomber mentality that you're willing to
Exactly
die.
right. Yep.
And that's what it is. When someone's willing to die and there's nothing you can really do to that person.
I don't know if it's just me, but I just feel like the Euron character in the show is just going to be a lot simpler than the book version. I don't think that he's going to have anything to do with magic. I think that the character is very on the surface. I could be wrong though. So
I need that damn Valyrian steel. If anything, if he has to have one thing out of all of it, I need that Valyrian steel armor.
I want to see Dragonbinder. I need to see. Daenerys has the nuclear arsenal basically right now, and no one can really oppose her.
Yeah, we need a Dragonbinder. We need we need some kryptonite.
Yeah, we need an equalizer.
Yep, I agree.
I think we've seen them big ass giants, and we seen what happened when that giant shot that arrow at the wall. You put a couple of those giants and you give them some arrows, them dragons will come down. They'll knock them right down.
But
That'd be
Cersei, Cersei doesn't have a giant though.
That's true.
No, she doesn't.
Unless she's gonna become the Night Queen. I don't know.
So a final note on the horn is that if they're going to do one horn, they might do both. Meaning if they're going to do a Horn of Winter, then it makes sense to also do Dragonbinder. And if they're not going to do either, then it makes sense to do, you know what I mean? It's probably both or neither.
Yeah, they showed the one already back in the day. So are they going to circle back for that?
Right. That's the question.
So we'll move on to the next one because I don't think they're going to give us either one. But I want them.
Wishful thinking.
But if you can get one thing out of Euron's arsenal, if he can only have one thing, what is the one thing you want him to have?
The shade of the evening.
I'd say Dragonbinder, but I don't think it's going to happen in the show.
Can I get some shade of the evening that we drink out of the Dragonbinder horn?
That's the one. That's my answer. I'm
It's not exactly
Let's go. Shade of the evening out of the dragon horn while wearing the Valyrian suit, a steel suit.
So the next battle I want to talk about is the Field of Fire. The trailer definitely teased the Field of Fire, callback to Aegon's conquest. what episode do you think we will get the Field of Fire in, and how does it go down?
If I talk about the Field of Fire, I would have to say that it would have to go down in episode 4. I think 3 or 4, it would have to go down. If I had to lean to one, I would say 4. It goes down because I think that in episode 3, we might get Cersei going over and taking the grain from the Tyrells and stuff. We've seen in the one trailer, the new trailer that was released, that Randall Tarly is with Cersei and them, and they're talking about Daenerys Targaryen and everything else. So obviously the man's going to flip. So I would say that's when it would go down.
Yeah, I was thinking around 4 or 5 too. And well, it looked like from the trailer that the Lannister army gets decimated by the Dothraki and the dragons. So we don't exactly know what Jaime is charging at from the trailer, but I think that perhaps could be Jaime's final moment. Like he's basically charging into death and like one final chance to maybe like stop something, maybe like kill a wounded dragon, but then he'll probably die.
If that happens, the loudest sound will be all the Jaime Azor Ahai theories, people dying.
Yeah,
I don't think he's Azor Ahai, but if that happens, I would be in tears.
Yeah, I think that when he's charging, he does charge at that dragon. But when you see that one scene where that person's falling into the water and the other person's pushing him over, I think that probably be Bronn pushing him off the horse. You see the fire of the dragon go over the head, and then they fall into them. That's how he saves him. Right?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So do you think all 3 dragons will be there, or just Drogon?
So this is a question I thought about. In the books, it's a huge problem to have dragons without a rider in a battle. We've got 2 good examples of that happening, and they're both during the Dance with the Dragons, which of course is in The Princess and the Queen. It's the Targaryen Civil War that takes place around 130 years after Aegon's conquest. And so the first one is when Rhaenyra held King's Landing. Her son Joffrey Targaryen tried to ride Rhaenyra's dragon Syrax, which you're not supposed to do. So he got thrown off in midair. But Syrax then flew on to the dragon pit where they were having that mob uprising to try to kill the 4 dragons living there. And so the quote from The World of Ice and Fire, the quote from The Princess and the Queen is, "Unchained and riderless, Syrax might have easily flown away from the madness. The sky was hers. She could have returned to the Red Keep, left the city entirely, taken wing for Dragonstone. Was it the noise and fire that drew her to the Hill of Rhaenys, the roars and screams of dying dragons, the smell of burning flesh? We cannot know, no more than we can know why Syrax chose to descend upon the mobs, rending them with tooth and claw and devouring dozens, when she might have easily have rained fire on them from above, for in the sky no man could have harmed her." And then later in that battle, or in that war, we had the Second Battle of Tumbleton, which was a truly awful affair. And we see the massive bronze-scale dragon known as Vermithor join a raging battle which is already in progress without a rider. And here's the quote when that happened. "The dance ended when Vermithor rose roaring into the sky. Almost 100 years old and as large as the 2 young dragons put together, the bronze dragon with the great tan wings was in a rage as he took flight, with blood smoking from a dozen wounds. Riderless, he knew not friend from foe, so he loosed his wrath on all, spitting flame right and left, turning savagely on any man who dared to fling a spear in his direction." And it goes on, talks about snapping somebody in his jaws and torching him on fire, but you get the idea. So that's all book canon, and we don't know how much of that is show canon, because in the last Battle of Meereen, we saw all 3 dragons flying around and roasting the ships, and nobody was riding the other 2. But I would point out that there were no Targaryen ships in the water. All the ships in the water belonged to the enemy. And on a battlefield, once the forces get tangled, having riderless dragons should be a bad thing. So I would guess that not all 3 dragons would take the field until they have riders.
I agree with you. I don't think this tiger. It's not the same tiger from The Walking Dead.
I did see in the trailer that some Dothraki were on fire during the Field of Fire.
So there you go. Maybe they make that mistake, and that's what happens.
So it makes me wonder if Dany really knows any dragon warfare tactics. Like, who's there to teach her?
No one.
Well,
She can maybe
Tyrion-
learn from the histories.
Yep, Tyrion's
mean-
book knowledge.
Yeah, I don't want to see Tyrion on a dragon. I really don't.
Oh,
Me
it's
neither.
gonna
I'm sick
happen.
of people saying that.
Tony, it's coming. Tyrion is a Targaryen, and he's gonna be riding a dragon. You're just gonna have to deal
No,
with it.
no, no.
I
no,
don't
no,
think
no.
Tyrion's Targaryen.
I don't
think
either.
Well, you're wrong.
I think it would be far more likely if Cersei and Jaime were Targaryen than
Nope.
Tyrion.
Nope,
I-
nope.
I-
Timeline doesn't work. You haven't read The World of Ice and Fire.
Oh my god. No,
I'm smiling as I say this, but
no.
the timeline doesn't appear to support it, as far as I could tell.
It's not clear. It's not clear with Jaime and Cersei.
Oh, it's not clear. Yeah, okay.
But the Mad King did go to Casterly Rock. It says that Joanna left King's Landing and rarely returned, but it doesn't say that she never returned. So we just don't have a
Well, I would call
date.
that throwing shade. And then on the Tyrion Targaryen theory, all we have is more and more evidence thrown at that. Like from book 1 to book 5 to The World of Ice and Fire, it's nothing but Tyrion dragon evidence. But that's okay. Y'all can live in denial
Tyrion
if you
is
want
Tywin
to.
Lannister's
You know, there is a
Tywin Lannister's son.
there is a
Yeah,
lot
because
of,
he was raised by Tywin, and John is Ned's son because he was raised by Ned. But that genetics
No.
and
No,
nurturing.
John is
Tyrion is the
Rhaegar's
son of
son.
Tywin Lannister.
Well, John is Rhaegar's son, but he's also Ned's son, and Ned's his father because Ned raised him. I mean, if you know anybody that's adopted and you ask them who their father is, it's the person that raised them. It's not the biological.
That's not the point. It's dramatic irony though, because Tywin thinks secretly that Tyrion isn't his son anyways, but Tyrion is. He is.
that
It's
would,
ironic either way.
Yes.
yeah, I
It
think
still is.
it could go either way, but I think the only thing that makes me think Tyrion isn't is the Tywin fact that he says that, and I think that Tywin, I don't know, I don't think he's
Well,
really right that
So
really
let's ask a
isn't
more
his son.
useful question. If Tyrion rides a dragon in the show, how will that affect your opinion of the book Tyrion Targaryen theory?
So I'm of the belief that you do not have to be a Targaryen to ride a dragon.
Oh, you're a true apologist for the non-Tyrion
No.
Targaryen.
No,
yes, you
because
do
we
have to be a dragon blood. Of course you
we-
do.
So we're saying
During the-
Valyrian, not Targaryen.
No,
or Targaryen?
no. But during the Dance of Dragons, we have Nettles. We don't know where Nettles come from. She could be a dragon seed, or she couldn't be.
Yeah.
It all depends. She it's the possibility that she is, but it's a possibility that she isn't. And she basically gets Sheep Stealer to let her get on him and ride him because
Right,
she
by-
just brings him sheep.
Right. And if we see Tyrion slowly doing that, then we can think that's what it was. But he walked right up to the dragons and they were like, "Hey, bro, you're cool."
Yeah, but that's in the show though. So
Yeah,
That's-
but
yeah,
in
that's in the
book,
show.
in the book, you have Tyrion with dragon dreams in book 1,
I mean, yeah, but
Quentin
talking about
has-
dreaming he used to be a lost Targaryen princeling and thinking about fires in Casterly Rock and riding dragons in his dreams. I mean, come on, it's really thick.
maybe he just likes dragons. He's Tywin's
But-
son.
Yeah, maybe.
Quentin had Targaryen blood. Quentin Martell. He had
No,
Targaryen.
Targaryen blood's not a guarantee. The dragon still has free
Loosely.
will.
The dragon does have free will. We'll never agree until we're proven wrong.
Well,
I'm
we
not-
are-
Tyrion is Tywin's son.
I'm not as sure of that as I sound too. I'm just talking smack. I think he's a Targ, but I'm not positive. I mean, it's just a theory. But.
Yeah, I always end everything with "I'm probably wrong."
What do you guys think about all that idea about the dragons being do you think the show's just gonna hand wave that away and Dany's dragons are just gonna fly alongside Drogon and do what they're
Yeah.
supposed to do and that'll be
That's
that?
exactly what I think they're gonna because it like the last battle it was like the dragon like she was warging the dragons or something. They knew exactly what to do at the exact moment. So yeah, I think they don't give a crap. They're just like whatever. She controls
Yeah.
the dragons.
I mean, that's probably the case, you know.
I mean, they broke out of a goddamn brick wall because she flew over.
Yeah.
I would like them only to allow it to be like book canon, like it can only be Drogon because these other two would cause too much trouble. But I don't think they will because then they'll have to explain to people that only watch the show where's Rhaegal and Viserion. So they'll have a lot of questions and a lot of explaining to do. So I think that's why they skip. They might skip over that.
And they should have did that with the wolves. You know, people always say, "Hey, with other dire wolves, maybe they should treat them dragons like they treated the wolves and not use them." I mean, that's fair.
Well, so
The
let me
thing
make
is-
this point then. If there's no, if Dany doesn't need riders to control the other two dragons, then there's absolutely no need for other dragon riders, is there?
Exactly.
I guess not. But see, my thing is, I feel like for them to show all three dragons, it has to be like a really big thing, because like that was a really big thing in the histories when Aegon, the Field of Fire, when he unleashed all three of his dragons. That was like the only time that he ever did that, and it was like a huge deal. So I don't know. I feel like it needs to be a big moment when all three dragons come out.
Yeah, you think this is not a big enough moment for the three dragons? I agree that it most likely isn't a big enough battle to have all three dragons together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I personally don't even think they need the dragons. I feel like the Lannister soldiers aren't a match for Dothraki in open field.
In season 1, Robert is like, if the Dothraki get here, we're fucked. Robert says that. So.
Yeah.
And he knows his shit.
Yeah, and look, and it's, well, I would say Tarly's a very good commander too, and he's going to be on their side, I would think. We haven't seen him in the trailer on the Field of Fire, but we have seen him with Cersei, so I'm going to assume that he's somewhere around there with them. But when you see these Dothraki, as many as they have at least 5 times their number, it looks like, from what we've seen so far, that there's just no stopping them. It reminds me of, I hate to say it, but the way Ramsey ran through Stannis, it's going to look like that, and probably worse. So they'll do more detail because they have the budget, but it's going to be a massacre like that.
So Tony, to your point, the way to defeat Dothraki is to wall up inside your castle and wait them out, because cavalry can't really, like, they don't have siege engines, but that's not really very good television sitting inside a castle. So I think we will see a battle out on the open field, and you're right, the Dothraki should kick a lot of ass in the open field.
And well, the Unsullied was outside the castle, and they sent them back when they charged at him. So you can do it if you have the discipline, you know what I mean, and you have enough skill like they had. They stood outside and got in ranks, and they charged them, and they backed them down and charged them, backed them down, and got them out of there. So it can be done, but those Unsullied are the Unsullied. These aren't the Unsullied.
Okay,
so soldiers are definitely not the Unsullied.
So the other thing about the whole idea of using dragons on a standing army, whether it happens with 1 dragon or 3, or in this battle or in some other battle, is going to be the moral component of it. And how does the show deal with that? Because we just saw the Lannister soldiers humanized in that scene with Arya quite effectively. And we were shown that not everybody in the army is evil Tywin. A lot of them are just young boys that are conscripted into war. So Dany's going to climb on a dragon and just roast 4,000 people. Like, what's that going to look like on its own? That is what she's going to do, but how are they going to deal with the moral component is my question. I
mean, I don't even know if they are. They might make you feel a little bad, but I feel like Dany understands that this is where the Targaryens have fought for hundreds of, the Valyrians have fought like this for hundreds of years. I mean,
when you see that dragon, when you see those Dothraki dragon above them, ain't no one gonna be thinking about no moral nothing. They're gonna be like, oh shit, here we go, baby, let's go. And that's all you're gonna be thinking when that goes down. You know what I mean? So I feel like that might be something that Martin might address in the books, but as far as the show addressing that, no, I don't think so.
Quinn, I can tell you're pretty pessimistic about the show.
I am, because I've seen them consistently fuck shit up and gloss over shit and give me bad plots and bad writing and bad storylines
and bad pussy.
Yeah.
I mean, I mostly agree with you. I used to be more worked up about it. I kind of just accept the show for what it is, and I mostly enjoy the show for occasionally capturing the visual aspect of a scene. From the books, it's nice to see certain, like Hardhome. It never exactly happened in the books, but it did portray the horror of a white attack very effectively, and I valued that experience. That's mostly what I get out of the show.
One scene that I'll say I like more in the show than I like in the book is when Dany takes Astapor. I like that scene more in the show than in the book, because in the book you know the whole time that Dany can speak Valyrian, so it's like not even a thing. But I feel like in the show it's way more impactful, because like right at the end she starts speaking Valyrian. It's really interesting.
Yeah, they get enough stuff right for you to keep watching. But you definitely, I mean, at this point I'm almost glad that the show is so like it's so Hollywood now, and it's so different from what George would do, because it makes me feel less worried about being quote unquote spoiled for the ending, you know?
Yeah, when she mic dropped the whip at the end of that battle, and you see that army behind her, that's a great moment.
That's a great scene.
That
Fantastic.
was a great scene.
So the reason why I brought up the moral component, and not just the moral component, but like the shock value of it, the reason why there was only one field of fire is because there only needed to be one field of fire. Once they did that, they got a lot more quick surrendering. And the surrendering of the North was not long after the field of fire. So that's one of those things, like, where the reason to do it is to sort of send a message. So there is a reason for Dany to do it early on, is kind of what I'm saying. Like, there is a certain logic to, like, let's go take our dragons, roast the fuck out of somebody, and just show everybody who's boss, so we don't have to fight, 8 battles.
Yeah, I think she's gonna do a lot of, like, her conquest is gonna mirror a lot of Aegon's conquest. Like, we're gonna have the king who knelt, that'll be Jon. We're gonna have the Tyrion taking over the West for Daenerys. And I also think that when in the synopsis for the Queen's Justice, it says that Cersei will return her gift. When Aegon sent, I think it was the last Storm King, he was proposed for the daughter to marry his
Storm King sent the hands of the
Warriors.
messenger back to Aegon.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, because he didn't want to marry a bastard.
Right, and I think Cersei is going to do that. I think she's going to send Illyria's head or something to Daenerys.
Ooh, yes.
And I think Daenerys is going to answer with the Field of Fire and it taking Casterly Rock.
Like, reading that in the World of Ice and Fire shows you how badass Aegon was, because he didn't even respond to the dude. He just unleashed the ravens, and he was like, you know what? I'm taking all this shit over. Because you wanted to do that, I'm taking over everything.
So one of the things in The Princess and the Queen, in the Dance of the Dragons, that was really interesting is the escalating series of atrocities. And it was just one outrage, and then the whole blood and cheese murder, and, like, it was just one thing after another that escalated it. And I think George is really good at doing that. It'll be interesting to see how well the show does, because something like what you just proposed, where you have an insult, to the emissary or something like that, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I hope they go that route, and I hope they show escalation. I really hope that they don't do that. We see the sea battle, and then later on we're wishing that we see the sea battle again. I hope that the sea battle sets its mark, and then every battle after that just goes up and up and up.
Yeah, I think it's we see the sea battle in Stormborn, and Euron gives Cersei the Sand Snakes, and then in the Queen's Justice will be Cersei's justice for the Sand Snakes, and which is for them killing her daughter. So she's gonna do something to them, send the gift back, because it says she returns the gift. So she returns the gift and she sends it to Daenerys, and then Daenerys does her own rendition of Queen's Justice for that injustice, and
that was justice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially if it goes out the way I said, and those people sneak out, then they get caught, and then she does that and cuts the head off of Yarsha or whoever and sends it back to him.
Yarsha.
Yarsha.
Oh, my nose. Oh, my nose. Oh, my nose.
Hey, so Quinn and Gray and Tony, here's what I'll say is the plot you guys just put together was pretty good. So you set a decent bar for the show to match. I'll be disappointed if their plot isn't as good as yours. I'm down. That sounded pretty interesting, what y'all just said.
Well, thank you.
No, HBO. My email address is TonyTeflon1.
I just want to see the Sand Snakes die horribly. Is that so much to ask?
Oh, you will. I think that if you ever seen that show Rome, I don't know if you have.
I've seen bits and pieces.
But you've seen when Caesar won versus the Gauls, you see the triumph. Every time they had a big battle, they always had a triumph. And they had a parade, and they had the prisoners, whoever they caught, and they paraded them in front of everybody. And then by the time they reached the steps of Rome, Caesar gave them the thumbs down, and they executed him in front of everybody. I think this is going to be the exact same situation. They're going to have them bagged up. They're going to parlay them right through the whole crowd. They're gonna reach the steps of Casterly Rock, and then that's gonna be the end of them when they get there.
The worst
I
part.
Not Casterly Rock, King's Landing. God forbid I say
Mhm.
Casterly Rock. The
King's
comments.
Landing is
You don't know what you're talking about.
The worst part, though, is that their executioner will probably be the Mountain, and all of this,
Ugh.
all of the bad stuff that's happened to Dorne has been the Mountain. The Mountain killed Elia. The Mountain killed Elia's children. The Mountain
Yeah.
killed Oberyn, and now the Mountain's going to kill you. So it's terrible.
Damn.
One thing that I will say that was good about Dorne, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it actually did make me care about Marcella, Cersei's daughter. Because when she
Yes.
died, I was like, what the fuck? Like, she didn't deserve to die. Like, I was really like kind of upset that she died.
Yeah,
And
original
that's part of the
Tom
reason that I hated it.
and Marcella were both like really sweet.
Mhm.
Definitely. And it makes you feel for them. And it makes you not like Ilaria or the Sand Snakes.
Well, I
Cersei
mean,
has gotta
and
be
the
Dorne
way
is
they
just a
killed-
lost cause. Dorne is a complete lost cause on the show. I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
flush it down the toilet, give them a death, let it move on with it. I mean, they just failed at that.
Yeah, I
Give
hope
them
the
a
Mountain.
disrespectful death.
I hope the Mountain like rips off their arms like one at a time, and they stand there with no arms. Like I want it to be like I want it to be like Mortal Kombat. You know, I really want it to be an episode.
wins.
Yes, I want it to look
Finish
like that. If he can just go in and pull her spine out her back or blood eagle her, something like that.
Fatality.
You know, I want to see that.
Oh gosh.
That's what I want to see.
Jesus.
There's a
Cruelty.
man.
I mean, you have to, because, and then the other way, look, if you're going to be executed, I mean, that's who you want. You want it to be quick, you know, so this has to be painful. So if he pulls her arms off and stuff like that, and then, you know, it'd be much better that way.
They probably
all
will
for
do
it.
something awful like that. I must say that the Mountain is one of those things where it's kind of cool to see it in person. The original Mountain was my favorite. That guy was huge. And then the bodybuilder guy was pretty cool. But Undead Gregor is fucking creepy, man.
Really.
Yes, I
Dude.
love it. I like when Euron tried to step up on Cersei and he was like, "No, motherfucker, you better
Okay
step back."
then.
Took his step back
on.
fast too.
Yeah, they can't fuck with that dude. He's too big. That's it. You know, it's too damn big. He's just too damn big. You can leave that man alone.
Shame. 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 Shame.